Hello everybody, and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another installment in our must-haves video series. This series focuses on pop culture related collectibles we believe have long-term investment potential. For today's video, we picked out a group of super cool and incredibly rare games for the Atari 2600, all factory sealed and graded by WATA. Now, a couple of you guys have asked us how to tell how rare a game is. You know, for the Atari 2600, we actually used a rarity index on the Atari Age website. That seems to be the most accurate, let's say, but you got to keep in mind that index relates to any specific example of that title coming to market, mostly in cart only. So it's not related to factory sealed games. Let's say there's a game that shows up as a 3 on the Atari Age index. I think 3 is scarce, but they mean scarce in cart form. A factory sealed game is probably more like a 7 or 8 on the rarity index, but they don't break it up between cart or CIB or cart manual and factory sealed. So you got to use that guide as kind of a guide, more or less, and not as gospel. You know, if something has a common rating, but there's only like 2 or 3 factory sealed games on the market, clearly it's not common in factory sealed condition. It might be common in cart only condition. So today, for today's video, we're actually going to give you guys the Atari Age rating, or the index rating for each game, to show you guys just how rare some of these games are. I think the index goes 1 is common, 3 is scarce, 5 is rare, 7 is very rare, and 10 is unbelievably rare. That means you probably won't ever see that game in your life. So that's the index in general. Like I said, mostly specifically related to cart-only versions. Factory sealed, completely different game, but they don't differentiate. So we are going to give you the ratings today so you can see just how rare some of these are, because if they have a rating of, let's say, 7 on the Atari Age rarity guide, factory sealed is probably like a 15 or 20, you know, if that existed. It only goes from 1 to 10. So let's go ahead and take a look. We have 7 games for you guys today. Super cool, incredibly rare Atari. If you guys have been watching this channel for a while, you know I love the Atari 2600, so very excited to show you guys what we have for you today. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first one. Here we have Infiltrate. This is a WATA 8.5 NS, published by Apollo Games in 1982. This is the Burgundy box version. This is incredibly tough to find. It's an 8.5. You know, all these games in today's video, it really doesn't matter the grade that you pick up for your collection if you can actually find these for your collection. These are incredibly rare, so if, you know, pick this up in any grade you can. You know, generally you want to stay above a 5, but it doesn't really matter. There's going to be very few of these that come to market graded in sealed condition. Like I said, you could probably find carts of these. I think the Atari Age rating on this is a 3, which means it's scarce. It's scarce in cart form. Factory sealed like this, you know, probably more like a 7, 8, or 9. It's incredibly rare. I think this is only the first one and only one we've seen in sealed condition. So great game to add to your collection if you can find it. Apollo is a smaller publisher. I think they published maybe 14, 15 games for the Atari 2600. So they published a decent catalog, but not anything like some of the big publishers. So these games are definitely a little bit more difficult to find on the market, but you know, well worth it if you can find them, add them to your collection. Take a look at our second game. Here we have Marine Wars. As you can see, this is a 9.2A, published by Konami in 1983. Now this one here is another really tough game. Konami was a much bigger publisher than some of the other smaller publishers we're going to show you guys today. So Konami actually made a pretty good amount of games for the Atari 2600. So to find this one here in sealed condition, though, incredibly tough. I think this is actually a 5 on the Atari Age index, which means it's rare. It's rare in cart form, so factory sealed, you know, 10 or above, you know, if there was a higher rating than 10 on the Atari Age rarity index. This game here, incredibly tough to find. This is the only factory sealed copy we've ever seen of this, and it's a 9.2A. That's why we picked this one up here for the company collection. You know, these games, these early 82, 83 games for the Atari 2600, that's when they were pumping out a ton of games onto the market. So a lot of these games, you know, they didn't sell very well because there were just so many to choose from. So there were smaller print runs. People didn't really collect them. They didn't keep them nice. They didn't keep them sealed. So to find these sealed today, tough games to add to your collection. If you can find them, add them. These are definitely going to be, all these games in today's video are definitely 1,000 plus, you know, if you can find them. Super cool games to have in your collection. Like I said, if you can find them, that's going to be the hard part. Game number 3. This is Miner 2049er. This is a 9.0 NS Tiger Vision from 1983. Once again, this is an Atari Age 5. That means it's a rare game in cart form. This one here is kind of unique in that when it actually came to market, they didn't wrap it in cellophane. They just put a piece of tape over the flap on the back. So if you can actually see this, there's a piece of tape right there that actually seals the box. That's how you know it's factory sealed. Not a lot of these on the market. Like I said, this is rare in cart form, so factory sealed, incredibly tough to find. You don't really see these come up that much, and this one here is a 9.0. You know, any of these games in any grade are great for your collection, but 9.0 or above, you know, you're sitting on a winner here. Expect to pay, like I said, $1,000 plus, probably $2,000 or more for this game because it is very popular. It is one that a lot of Atari collectors went after. So this one here is pretty well known in the Atari collecting community. So expect to pay up if you ever see this one on the market. All right, our fourth game. This is London Blitz. As you can see, this is a 9.68 plus, published by Avalon Hill in 1983. Now this is a 5 on the rarity index as well for Atari Age. If you guys are not familiar with the Avalon Hill games, Avalon Hill only produced 5 games for the Atari 2600, all incredibly rare. This one here is the most common, if you call it that. This is rated as a rare game. Some of the other Avalon Hill games, you know, 7, 8, 9 on the Atari Age rarity index. When you get to 9, don't ever expect to see them in your life. You know, even 7s and 8s. To find this factory seal, like I said, Atari Age rarity guide is cart only for the most part. It does not relate to factory seal games. So if you see a rating of 7 or 8, cart only version, expect, you know, never to see a sealed one. So to find these here, Avalon Hill games, incredibly tough to find. Avalon Hill was a board game producer, but like everybody else, early, 1980s, they jumped into the manufacturing of video games for the Atari 2600, like a lot of the other companies, like Parker Brothers, Konami. All those guys jumped into the video game space very hard for the Atari 2600, even though someone made handheld electronic games, board games, other toys, at the time. Everybody got into that space. It's where everybody wanted to be. So Avalon Hill got into it as well. They produced 5 games. Very small print runs for each of these. Tough to find. And this one here, this grade is incredible. So if you can ever find these Avalon Hill games, these are ones to add to your collection. Expect to pay $2,000 plus for these, but well worth adding to your collection if you can find them in any of the Avalon Hill titles. Let's keep the Avalon Hill games rolling. This is Wall Ball. This is a 9.0 A+, released in 1983 by Avalon Hill. This has an Atari Age rating of 7. That means it is very rare. That means it's very rare in cart form. Factory sealed, forget about it. You're not going to find these factory sealed very often. Every once in a while, I think we've seen 2 of these ever come up to market. We've actually this is a 7 on the Atari Age rarity guide. The London Blitz was a 5, but we've actually seen 2 of these. We've only ever seen one of the London Blitz. So, like I said, use those guides as a general idea of rarity, but they're not gospel. This one here, super cool game to have in your collection. Like I said, Avalon Hill only made 5 games. This is 2 of them, and we do have a third one to show you. We're only missing 2 games from having that entire catalog, but those 2 games we'll probably never see. I think they're rated like 9.0 or a 9 or an 8 on Atari Age website, so don't ever expect to see those games. So we do have 3 of them. Incredibly cool games to have in your collection. Wall Ball, if you can find them, pick these up. All right, game number 6. Here we have Death Trap. This is a 9.88+, Avalon Hill, 1983. Now this here has a Atari Age rarity rating of an 8. That means it's very rare plus. Which means it's almost unbelievably rare. You're getting to the level where you never see these games. And this is the only one we've ever seen of this, and it's a 9.88+. We got super lucky being able to pick this one here up. All these Avalon Hill games, like we keep saying, very small print runs on these, very low print runs. They didn't sell tremendously well. It was a board game producer that got into this space. They got out pretty quickly. Only 5 games were made. Incredibly cool games to have in your collection. And this is 3 of the 5 games they made. Our final game for the day. Here we have Mr. Do's Castle, a 9.4A by Parker Brothers, released in 1984. Once again, this is an 8 on the Atari Age Rarity Guide, very rare plus. This one here is super, super rare. I mean, it's an 8 on the Atari Age Rarity Guide, meaning 8, rarity and cart only. This is a factory seal one. This is the only one we've ever seen, and probably the only one we will ever see. This game, it was a very, very small production run. This was a sequel to Mr. Do. Because Mr. Do was so popular, they made a sequel. They rushed it to market. They didn't make a lot of them. People didn't keep them. A lot of people didn't buy them. It was not well received. So this one here, very, very low production run. Tough, tough game to get. But you're talking about, think about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a game like this. Factory sealed. Incredibly cool game to have in your collection. All these games here that we showed you guys today, a lot of these small low print run games, low distribution games, these games were not ones that people collected and kept nice. People were going after a lot of the marquee games, the more heavily marketed games, the Pac-Mans, Combats, Kaboom, Pitfall, all those titles. You're definitely going to see a lot more of those on the market factory sealed. For the most part, these are the only copies of these that we've seen factory sealed. Like I said, we maybe saw one more Wall Ball. We never saw any of these other ones. Maybe one more minor 2049er, but all the other ones, these are the only copies sealed we've ever seen. So there you have it. Those are our 7 games, ultra rare Atari 2600 games to show you guys today. If you can find these samples, any grade, pick them up for your collection. We do think they're great investments going forward. Please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.